more the perspective, really, of Michael Bociurkiw. He's a former spokesperson for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and he's currently a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and Global Affairs Analyst. Michael, good to see you. Let me start then with what Nick was talking about, and then that's this massive Russian overnight attack targeting energy infrastructure. I mean, it's something that you and I have discussed in previous years, even when I was out in Ukraine. This is right out of the Trump, pardon me, slip of the tongue, out of his playbook, Putin's playbook, right? So just give us a sense of the impact that you're seeing this is having in Odessa.
Sure. Good to be with you again as well. You know, this is pretty bad. I mean, I've been walking around for most of the day, Isa, and we're seeing outages of up to 13 hours in some regions of Ukraine. Now, as Nick pointed out, some of them are preventative, but I have a bit of a feeling that a lot of these are actually the direct result of direct Russian strikes over the past few hours on critical infrastructure. Temperatures are very low, near zero right now in most of Ukraine. They're due to drop even more in a few days' time. And Isa, you and I have seen a lot in Ukraine when you've been here, and graveyards and damaged buildings and stuff. But just a few blocks from here, I went today and I saw the neighborhood that was bombed by the Russians just 3 days ago. And you have massive apartment buildings with no windows, really heavily bombed out. And you have to wonder, how are those people, how are those families supposed to survive this winter?
And I'm sure, Michael, that you saw some of the commentary that we heard from President Putin today, that he said that this attack was in response to strikes on Russian territory using US-made ATACMS missiles, clearly rebranding this as retaliation, which probably, in all honesty, plays rather well domestically in Russia. But he is also threatened, Michael, to hit key sites in Kyiv. And in the last few minutes, we've seen that Russia, this is according to President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that Russia used cluster munitions in its large-scale overnight attack. This is just coming into us in the last few minutes. I mean, how do you read, then, Putin's moves here in terms of what he's seeing? Because he's clearly emboldened, Michael.
Right. Well, clearly a disregard for human lives. And as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, I don't know what more could surprise them. I mean, yes, that Oreshnik missile was powerful, but my goodness, that strike this morning of almost 200 drones and rockets took over an hour, because these rockets and drones took very circuitous routes across Ukraine. But, I'd like someone like Mr. Putin, maybe even Mr. Trump, to maybe speak to some of the children behind me. Again, we've seen so much in this war, but when you meet two young children, including a newborn, who don't even know their father is no longer around and they have to seek shelter where I am right now, these little stories are being multiplied all over Ukraine right now, and it's only going to get worse, I'm afraid.
Let's speak to Trump, to President-elect Trump, because he believes that he can bring about an end to the war in 24 hours. Putin spoke about him today, Michael. I want to play this. Have a listen. We can talk afterwards.
As far as I can imagine, the newly elected president is an intelligent and already quite experienced person. I think he will find a solution, especially after he went through such a, let's say, very serious test as the fight to return to the White House.
So intelligent and experienced. I mean, what is Putin's calculations, you think, now that Trump will be in the White House? What is the NATO alliance preparing for, you think, here?
Well, a lot of us often talk about how do you get into the mind of a crazy man, Mr. Putin, and maybe one con man, it's easy for him to understand another. But I think when it comes to Mr. Trump's dealing with Mr. Putin's, there's no floor to his subservience to him. I think he's going to test him out a little bit. And if Putin doesn't listen, maybe he will give Ukraine everything it needs. We'll see. But let me be clear on one thing. There is not the hopes here that Trump is going to be good for Ukraine are very, very low, despite what's coming out of Kyiv. If I can add, as a Canadian, we feel like the air has been punched out of us in the past 48 hours when Trump wants to impose on America's best friend, Canada, 25% tariffs. So if you're going to treat your best friend that way, imagine how you're going to perhaps treat a country like Ukraine. And Trump has in the past referred to Zelensky as also a con man. And he's also, we will remember, tried to extort dirt on his opponents in exchange for weapons. So that's where we are today. It's a pretty sad situation.
It is indeed, and I want to tap into your expertise of going in and out, obviously going into Ukraine, because the challenges, as we heard from Nick Payton-Walsh, they're very real on the front lines. But we've also heard from the senior Biden administration official tell CNN that Ukraine needs to lower the recruiting age for its military from 25 to where it currently stands to 18. I mean, how would this be received there?
It won't, because I did talk to a lot of people about that today, and there's no way people are going to agree to that. That will be a political death sentence for any Ukrainian president, because as it was very succinctly explained to me by a mother today, is that why am I going to send my son, 18-year-old son, to the front line if there aren't enough weapons? And that's very well known here. The world knows it. If the United States had that feeling, perhaps they should have said that quite a few months ago and backed it up with sending everything Ukraine asked for.
Yeah, the timing of these comments definitely striking. Michael, always great to see you. Appreciate your analysis. Michael Bociurkiw there talking to us from Odessa.
Thank you.